It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam Lesante. Thanks for joining us, my friends. Let me tell you a little story. We did a scientific poll about 2 years ago. Susquehanna Polling and Research, probably one of the top in the country. And there were a lot of questions that were asking. We didn't have the questions, they had the questions. But one thing that I was really impressed and really humbled is when it came to the question as to why do you watch the Sam Lesante Show, over 90% of you said, because you trust me. And that means a lot to me. And in 40 years I've been doing this. That's critical to me. And I appreciate that very much. Now, why do I say that? Because we have politicians that can we trust? That's the big factor here. You know, we're listening to a lot of nonsense these days, a lot of untruths, a lot of facts that are not there. So I brought my good friend on, okay, Congressman Dan Meuser. And why I say good friend, let me go back to 2011 when Dan was the Secretary of Revenue. Probably had been maybe 2013 or 14, but we were having concerns about the lottery and where the money's going for the seniors. And I brought senators on, state senators, state representatives, and they gave me bull. The only person that was always honest with me was Dan Meuser, okay? And so I could tell you that when today's show, we're going to talk about true facts, not baloney and not political and spins, etc. So, Congressman, thanks for coming on the show.
Sam, thank you so much. You do tell it like it is, and that's great to hear how trusted you are by your
Well, that to me is the most
audience.
important thing, is why I've been doing this for 40
agree.
years, okay? I don't have all the answers, but one of the things I want to also state is that I told you I did a promo indicating that you were coming on the show, and I asked the people if they would, give any questions or comments. You know, my major audience is seniors, okay? And I try to give them true facts and not malarkey. So, first of all, we have this one big, beautiful bill. The opponents say it's one big, ugly bill, okay? Okay, so let's talk about this particular bill, what it does.
Okay, sure. And I don't know why they call it ugly, because they got nothing else really to say. There's nothing constructive. They certainly didn't offer anything. And they, I mean, my Democrat colleagues. I mean, look, this bill, first off, codifies much of what the President Trump did just through executive order on closing the border. So we added some funding for the Customs and Border Patrol agents and some funding for the barriers. And by the way, our border is secure. Remember when Secretary Mayorkas used to tell us it was secure, and 280,000 people a month were coming in here illegally? We had no idea how many were just running off, gotaways they called them, and those who are on terrorist watch lists, for crying out loud. Now, you know how many come across the border? Less than 10, 5, 3. Last month there was 0. So there's money in there to codify that, just in case, God forbid, a president like Joe Biden doesn't get reelected in the future. They can't open up the border again. So we codified that in the big, beautiful bill. We also, very importantly, had some energy policy in there, minimizing some permitting, opening up some lands, opening up exploration up in ANWR in Alaska. If you've noticed, and everybody has, since President Trump's been president, gasoline is at what, $2.34, something of that nature. Under Biden, it was $3.80, $3.90, $4.50, etc. So we're codifying that. So that can't happen again. They can't do the things that they did before. But very importantly, the taxes that were in there. What we did is we didn't really lower anybody's taxes on a few occasions, but we sustained them at levels and made much of the tax relief permanent. Now, for instance, and I mean for all Americans, I mean 162 million tax-paying Americans would have seen the largest tax increase ever in the history of America if we didn't pass this bill. And every single Democrat voted for this enormous tax increase on the American people. And I mean the tax rate for small business would go from 21% to 35%.
Why would you want to, and I'm not picking on any party here, but I think you have some pretty intelligent people on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Many of my friends.
Okay, why would you want to not vote for something that's going to save taxpayers that kind of money, especially small businesses, which I am one of them, okay?
Right.
I mean, I don't understand the logic. What do they say why?
Because they say because all American taxpayers are getting a tax reduction, including, those that are wealthy. Millionaires are getting 1.5%, or actually it's being sustained. It's not being lowered. But because they wouldn't have their tagline that says, they're taking away Medicaid to give tax breaks to billionaires. You know how ridiculous that comment is, by the way? There are less than 800 billionaires in the United States. And you know what? I ran these numbers. 75% of these billionaires that they rail against donate heavily to the Democrat Party, not to the Republican Party. Yeah, and there's less than 800 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not worried about them. Okay, we want them to pay their fair share, and of course, okay, well, I'm worried about the 160 million other taxpayers that are out there, as well as the 30 million small businesses that they voted to increase their taxes enormously. Also, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. A reduction of most taxes on Social Security for most Social Security recipients. And the only reason I say that is because we had to do a $6,000 tax deduction. So everyone who gets Social Security will get a $6,000 tax deduction, and that clears out the taxes on 88% of those who receive Social Security.
Let me go back to no tax on tips. There's a limit, though, right?
Yeah, but it's a high limit.
$25,000.
Right.
So, I mean, which is great. I'm sure people would love to make $25,000. When we get to Social Security, okay, it's at $6,000, joint $12,000. If you hit $150,000, okay, and less, you get that deduction, correct? Then how does it work after? If someone's making $175,000 combined, or is it proportionate then?
It is. It is. It minimizes over time in a proportionate manner.
You're still saving.
So the wealthy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Didn't mean
absolutely.
I just.
Oh no, that's good clarification. I mean, people need to know.
All right. So.
And for small businesses though, this bonus depreciation, right? What that means is capital investment. When you go buy these cameras and everything else, you now can deduct it that year, not 5 years from now. That is huge for stimulating manufacturing and stimulating investment in businesses. A lot of these investments that we're seeing, where Trump's bringing in trillions, and Dave McCormick out in Pittsburgh the other day with $92 billion of investments, that happened because we set the stage. We created the environment where for investment opportunities. That was just in Pennsylvania, by the way.
That's the thing that I get confused about. Some people just want to read headlines, okay? And I said the nonsense, how much nonsense out there, it's pitiful. So one person put it to me, he said, it's amazing how, first of all, we could solve all the problems that in the world by just letting editorial boards take over, because they seem to know more about what people who are actually doing. Like someone out there saying how to run a TV station than they ever ran a TV station, which is sad. You don't mind if they present facts.
That's the way of putting it.
Okay, but getting to the average person out there, all right, who really is trying to survive, what should they believe about this Medicaid? Because there's commercials running now. I don't know if they're factual, I don't know if they're true or whatever, but they're hammering Bresnahan.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in the mix as well, okay? But the point is it true that people who are on Medicaid are going to lose Medicaid?
No, anyone who is eligible for Medicaid will not lose. What they're stating is, there's no other way of putting it, a great lie is taking place. And let me tell you this, and one of those commercials on Bresnahan was just shameless. The people on there stating what they stated, they're not going to lose their Medicaid. Here's who's going to be audited and perhaps lose Medicaid. Any individual who's not eligible for Medicaid. Illegal immigrants. People say, oh, there aren't that many. There are millions. There's millions of illegal immigrants on, and this is through every study, from the CBO, the GAO, you name it. They don't audit the books. They're receiving Medicaid. In Pennsylvania, our governor has one of the worst records for auditing and bringing out those whom are ineligible for Medicaid. The Attorney General of the United States told me that. So what this is going to do is it's going to eliminate illegals. It's going to eliminate those who are double dipping, so to speak, that are getting it in New Jersey and on it here as well. And it will eliminate the one thing that we changed, okay, is work requirements. We always had work requirements for SNAP. There were certain work requirements back in the days of Bill Clinton that he implemented. He called it workfare. All right, so there are work requirements. So if you're between 19 and 64 years old, and this is something that's new, and you're on Medicaid and you have no dependents and you're not disabled, right? So there's all kinds of waivers. You could prove otherwise. You then have to serve at least 20 hours of work a week. So 80 hours a month, 20 hours a week, but whether volunteering, schooling, some sort of training, something like that. Again, with no dependents, or if you're able to work, if you have no disability. So that's the only thing that's been changed. Here's the thing. If we don't do this audit, you know what's happened during the 4 years of Joe Biden? Medicaid spending went from approximately $610 billion to $935 billion in a 4-year period. That's a 60% increase in that time frame. All right, so particularly in the blue state governors, just let it get out of control. Here, you want to have another kicker? If certain governors can implement these changes I just said to you, the earliest they can implement them is January 1st, 2028. That's two and a half years from today, right? Yeah, 2.5 years. In blue states who don't want to audit and don't want to do the work and be accountable to the taxpayers, they can waive that off that year and they can initiate it January 1st, 2029. So we're talking about 3.5 years away. And here they are running ads against my friend and a great member of Congress, Rob Bresnahan, and hitting me on social media and having protests and stating how we're looking to kill people. It's pretty much madness.
That's why I opened the show the way I did. I mean, because I think people are just fed up. They're fed up with the nonsense. They're fed up with this, okay? And what surprises me even more so is I don't mind if I was a debater, and we did both sides, as you know. When you got colleagues on the other side, and you debate in a friendly manner and you present points. But when the press comes out and they just take one side, one person from Minot City said to me, he said, "Are you reading the paper?" I said, "Yeah, I read it every day. We're media partnership with the Pottsville Republican and Standard Speaker, you know." I've got a good friend. She said, "Well," said, "Mr. Lesante, could you tell me why it seems to be always one-sided? Where they're either criticizing even to the letters of the editors." I said, "Well, I don't have any control over that, but the New York Times and all these, don't they have intelligent people that understand both sides? I mean, why would you come out and lie and do a commercial? Is it upset? Are they upset because Bresnahan took a seat from them? I mean, yeah.
It's all about winning. It's not about governing.
Yeah.
It's not about the greater good. It's about maintaining power. And by the way, Medicare is not touched, not even included. Not one word about Medicare. Medicare is exactly the same. This is about Medicaid, and it's about waste, fraud, and abuse, and not putting people on it like illegals and those who are totally ineligible.
You know, when we say, when we're talking about illegals, people think we don't have a heart. People think that we're bad, and we don't take care of our people. Talked to a lady who was her husband in Pittsburgh, went to the hospital, had to wait, okay, and found out that she waited for 12, 14 hours. Her husband he died, okay. Majority of the people in front of him were illegals, okay. And so she said to me, she said, Sammy, I have a heart, but we're citizens, and yet we're put aside, okay, for illegals. I don't mind if you're illegal. And she said, what do I do? If I say it's not right, well, they have kids, so you're caught in the middle. How do you feel about that, Dan?
Well, how I feel is that we need to be a welcoming country. We always have been, but we need to have high fences, but wide gates. And I'm all for, now that we've finally secured the border fully, I'm for a comprehensive illegal immigration reform, which allows certain levels of of legality for various people, the DACA kids, that sort of thing, the Dreamers, more extensive immigration visas, work visas for farms and service industry, things of that nature where people are coming here and getting a start, or if they have a skill, let's work on that. But as far as the hospitals go, by law
And schools.
by law they get treated, and schools. Let's talk about schools too. But by law they get treated in the emergency room. So whatever their condition is, they go to the emergency room and they get treated. That's probably what happened to that poor gentleman.
Here again, it's just that a whole mess of illegals were there. Okay, not even it just said, folks. I'm talking to Congressman Dan Meuser. I opened the show up saying to you that I really appreciate the fact that 90% of this. Of the surveys taken, the scientific poll, trust me, and I appreciate, I don't take that, lightly by no means. This guy sitting next to me, I know him since he was Secretary of Revenue. Go back and Google him and check his records. He tells you the facts, and we have a lot more to talk about when we come back. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show. Interesting show today. Congressman Dan Meuser's here. I want you to know, my friends, every time I pick the phone up and call Dan, I get an answer within 24 hours, and he doesn't give me a runaround. And I said back in 2012, when he was Secretary of Revenue, he was the only person who ever came on the show and told the truth. And ever since then, he's been telling the truth. So it's true facts. Thank you for making this show the #1 talk show in northeastern Pennsylvania. 56,000 of you every week watch us. I appreciate that very much. Congressman Barletta said to me one time, Lou, he said, Sammy, he said, I come out of meetings sometimes, he said, and I can't sleep at night when I see what's going on. He said, it's just, personally, what is the biggest disappointment, if there is any, that you see in Congress?
Well, probably the level of how political things are. It's really all about winning. And frankly, and I'm sorry to say this, but from the Democrat side of the aisle, they spend most of their time trying to fool the American people and con them into things and make us Republicans look awful rather than engaging in some constructive debate and constructive policy for the greater good of America. I mean, look, their whole thing is tax and spend. We've heard that for many years about the Democrats. If you gave them if Kamala Harris had been reelected, you would have seen the taxes go up, and you'd see our ballooning deficit spend and debt go through the roof another $4 or $5, $6 trillion. I mean, totally irresponsible. You would see these agencies double in size because they did under Biden. Do you know that the Small Business Administration, okay? A lot of people count on the Small Business Administration. It does some good things, right, for small business, but it's a relatively small agency. When Trump was there the first term, okay, and prior to that, they had 4,000 employees, 4,000. Under Biden, it went up to 8,200. They more than doubled in size. And I can tell you, nothing got better, by no means. In fact, things got worse. And by the way, how beautiful is this? Soon as COVID came, none of them ever came back to work. I mean, 85 to 90% of them did not come in one day a week. So you're telling me those additional 4,000, that's terrible management. It's unbelievable level of mismanagement, minimal accountability, and it's different now. Now we're on Trump time, and let's just hope that we always have a president that makes his cabinet secretaries accountable, and the American people appreciate that. And by the way, that's how you build trust, by being trustworthy. President Trump is delivering on his promises, whether you like him or not. He is, or even if you like his policies or not, he's doing the things he said he was going to do, and that is more limited government, bring in some savings, bring accountability, strengthen our national security, and make our economy flourish. And yes, bring world stability along the way.
It's interesting. Talking to seniors who I love dearly, person said to me, "Hey, Lesante, why do you think this Harris spent $1 billion to try to beat Trump?" I said, you tell me why. Well, there's so much junk going on down there. He said there was so much fraud and so much stealing. He said that's why they spend $1 billion. Now he's in and he's cleaning house. But you don't hear, I mean, you hear about it on Fox. And,
Whoever said that to you is so right. These billionaires I mentioned before, you know why they donate the way they do? Okay, to the Democrats? Because they want to own USA Inc. They want to own our federal government. They want to run it.
It's sad.
Yeah.
It's very, this guy is, guess how old he is? 90 years old. Sharpest, I mean, it's just amazing how he said, that's why. I said, well, I said, now you make sure you mention that to Meuser. I said, I think Meuser knows that. Talking about Trump, all right, you know, a very good friend of mine, he's one of my best friends, hates Trump. He has a terrible feeling in his stomach. He said, I just hate him. I don't like him. And he's all, you know, what the Epstein and there. I said, calm down. Just calm down, okay?
Bill Clinton was on the plane 27 times.
Yeah, but
never mind that.
Let's not worry about that, okay? Let's talk about Investing in All of America Act, which I think is very interesting.
It's a great bill. We'll get it through. What it allows is more investment through SBICs, small business investment companies. They get some. They get leverage from the SBA funds that comes from the Treasury. There's no taxpayer dollars involved. It's loans. But what this bill does, it focuses on rural manufacturing. So, and it's very bipartisan. So for rural manufacturing, we'll now have access to another, well, actually it's uncapped. So it could be as much as $250 million in added access to capital for specifically for manufacturing in rural areas. So it's a good bill. I think we passed it unanimously through our committee.
Okay, now another question that came in from Shenandoah, great town.
Shenandoah, love it.
Oh, great town. Something
Francesco's, some of the best Italian food in Pennsylvania.
The lady said to me, the couple, Sam, the tariffs. He says, what does that mean? I mean, how they didn't understand what tariffs mean. I mean, you know, explain, give us a 101 course on why that's so important, the tariffs.
Well, people understand taxes.
Yeah.
Right. So when you're taxed at 30%, you make $50,000 and you have to give the government, well, okay, everybody's got to pay taxes and we need it for many things. $18,000. A tariff is in many ways a tax, but it's a tax on foreign goods as opposed to, and allows us to minimize taxes on American-made goods. I mean, that's number one. Now, a lot of these countries don't provide health care. I don't know, a lot of them, but certainly like China, don't have, well, the legal obligations that we have, don't have the type of pollutant controls we have, don't give the type of benefits, vacations, and everything else. Their cost of doing business is a lot lower than ours. So therefore, they're able to sell in the United States for 30% less, perhaps, than we make here. And I'm talking about Vietnam, Thailand, other countries like that. Not necessarily China. China's able to sell over here 40% less. So that's one reason that the president said, this isn't fair. We need to change this. And I'll tell you something. He was so right. I was a little uncertain. I didn't necessarily agree on where he was going with the tariffs, but he's negotiating them well and he's making them balanced. The idea is reciprocity. If you got 10% on us, we want to be 10% on you. So with the but when you're dealing with a country like China, and Japan's an ally, so let's use one adversary and one ally. They have 50% tariffs on us, and we have 2% tariffs on them over time. So guess what? We just opened the door for them selling everything here and putting all these burdens on our made in America products. Doesn't make any sense. President Trump saw that, and he's seen that for years. He used to say that well before he was even thinking about getting into politics. He forced us to rethink what free trade and fair trade means, because free trade without fair trade is unfair trade, and so we're correcting it, and it's going to work out. I mean, this deal he just cut with the EU, it's fantastic. We now have like a 2 or 3% tariff on them. Or excuse me, they have that on us. We have a 15% tariff on them. And you want to know one of the reasons? Because you got to take exchange rates into place too. right? I mean, the exchange rate of a euro to a dollar is about 15%. A euro can buy $1.15 worth of American goods. Well, a dollar can only buy 85 cents worth of European goods. So by doing this, it really evens it out. It was in a way simplistic brilliance.
You know the president well, okay? He even was on the phone when you helped Emmanuel Christian out, which I thought was great, okay? For those people who do not know President Trump, and you know him extremely well, what would you say to those people who are just hate Trump? No matter what he does, they hate him, okay? But yet they benefit from all the goodies. You know, they're benefiting by the $1.50 less, you know, in gallons of gas, okay? They're benefiting with the inflation coming down. Of course, you're still here. We're still paying the price from Biden with meats and stuff like that, but I think that'll settle down, okay? What do you say to those doubting?
If I had a wish, I would just say, take a breath and give him an honest chance. Have an open mind. Look at his policies, truly look at what he's saying, see where the man's heart is, and also appreciate where his mind is. He has one special interest, okay? He can't be bought. His special interest is the American people. I mean, even right now, you see what he's looking to do with pharma. We pay 2 times too much for prescription drugs. He's focused on eliminating that, and that can actually save somewhere in the neighborhood of $300–400 billion a year. Significant money. He wants to strengthen America. He wants Americans to feel good. He wants to bring back patriotism. And I'll tell you, you know, on a personal level, he's just he's great. He compliments me out of nowhere sometimes, not just me, others. He's a people person, and it's very sincere. I mean, I think I told you once I had the opportunity to drive in the Beast with him, and I was telling him about my father. My father was a police officer and everything else. He goes, "Hey, let me give your father a phone call." So I dial him up, and I'm saying, "Oh, Dad, please answer that phone." And he answered, and my father ended up having a great conversation with him, and he'll remember it forever. I mean, he's met him since, but that's the kind. He's a very good person. I mean, honestly, look at his kids, you know? I mean, I know sometimes good people, sometimes kids go the wrong way. You know,
No.
Sammy?
No, not my son or my daughter.
I'm kidding. He's the best. But that happens. But he's a solid person. He's been very successful. But he's funny. Also, you got to appreciate his humor. You know, the other day I'm at the White House and we brought out the crypto bill, the digital asset bill, and it's called the Genius Act, because that's an acronym for something to do with cryptocurrencies, stable coins. And Trump comes out and he says, "Oh, the Genius Act," and he smiles. He goes, "I guess you named it after me." and it just that drives liberals crazy.
Yeah.
But that's his humor.
He wrote the book Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
Okay, and so who else could make the deal? The other thing is when we're looking at the immigrants, we're having people now saying, well, you know, like L.A. is like, I don't know. I have friends out there in L.A. who it's just the prices are going through the roof out there. Have you, about your colleagues in California, what are they telling you? The Republicans, not the Democrats.
About inflation?
Yeah, and what's happening in California.
Well, I mean, California is the People's Republic of California at this point. Yeah. I mean, they got terrible management from the top to the middle to the bottom. You know, just they're very fortunate that it's an amazing state with a lot of natural resources. A lot of people like to live there, and they have their businesses there, in spite of having super high taxes and you know, $6 a gallon gasoline and traffic and pollution and homelessness. I mean, it's kind of like a household that has no discipline whatsoever in it. And with young people or, you know, even young teenagers doing, you know, trying to do the right thing, but too often they don't.
Dan, the American people have, from the latest pollings out here on not only Fox, but CNN, etc., 29 to 31% have faith in the media, which is very sad.
I'm surprised it's that high.
That high, yeah, you're right, okay. So what tells me is that Why then would they continue to lie to the American people or twist and not tell the truth? Okay, because really when things are bad, I mean, I have a TV station here. You're going to see ads. Well, people don't buy that product unless they have money. If they don't have discretionary income, I can put as many ads as possible. So what I want is make sure is that everyone's working and they're so at least when they see the ads, they could purchase that. So where does accountability come in? I mean, so when you have, if I was head of a major company, a media company, and I saw my ratings going down the tubes, okay, as you see with CNN and MSN. You could go Google it and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not picking on them. I'm saying when you see these going down the tubes, don't you think, come on here, folks, let's put our personalities aside and let's present the truth.
Yeah.
Where's the accountability?
Well, first off, elected officials, members, and those who work in the White House take an oath of office. The media doesn't take an oath of office, but that doesn't mean that they can be amoral and just state things to the American people that are false. They do it because their friends are liberals. They do it. Look at that. Recently, Jake Tapper had to say, came out with his book saying, we all propagated the very false narrative that Joe Biden was A-OK throughout all this time. Our Governor Shapiro stated privately that he felt concerns about Biden's cognitive ability, and yet on the same day, basically in August, said to the American people, "Oh, Joe Biden's fine. I was just with him. He's terrific. I've never seen him." Because that's what they need to do. Because they can't tell the truth. If they tell the truth, nobody will vote for them. And take like Jen Psaki, right? She was the spokesperson. She now has a show. She just carries the same narrative that the White House has. How about when they all use the same word or same phrase? Yeah. Those are talking points that were coming from the Biden White House. What about the intelligence people who are all now have contracts with CNN and MSNBC that all signed a letter saying that they thought the Hunter laptop was Russian disinformation, when we know damn well at this point, 100% definitively, it was not Russian disinformation. These are, because it's a revolving door. They'll be back with the next Democrat, and they want to be part of the club. And maybe it's a little Machiavellian. Maybe they just think the end justifies the means. I don't know. I've stopped trying to figure it out. I've even stopped trying to create converts unless somebody's willing to say, that's a good point, or because I'm always willing to say that if they say something that's accurate. But we don't need the converts, right? We need people who love America and want to see the best for all American people, want to see a strong economy, want to see a limited government, believe in the Constitution. And if all those people with common sense come out to vote, we don't need the extremes that are on social media carrying the false narratives.
Could you imagine when you look at well, give me your synopsis of the first 6 months of Trump before I say what I'm going to say.
It was fantastic. I mean, seriously, we rolled in. I mean, he shut the border down immediately, did all this regulatory reform for our energy. Our energy investments started going way up. We could do a whole show on this. Every agency that I'm familiar with, and I'm subcommittee chair of oversight and investigations for financial services. So I oversee the Fed, I oversee the SEC, the OCC, the FDIC. So all the banking, all the securities industries and such, all of them now have people running it that are good at it. Prior, they had people running at it that honestly worked against the American economy and against the American people all the time. They were meddlers. And they were driving compliance. You know why? Because they love control. They want to control the banks. They want to control the lending institutions. From community banks to large banks. That's how they operate. They hated energy, right? They hated. They were doing something called debanking. Prior to this, they would warn banks not to fund energy companies. So what I'm saying is you now don't have a bunch of ideologues with the president in there. Their only ideology is to is to do what's best for America in line with the President's America First plan, which is legal and in line with the Constitution. But just go on. Look what we did with taxes. Look where the economy's going already. Today we just got 3% GDP estimate. Look at our border, which of course I mentioned. We have leadership around the world. Look what he just did with the EU. There was no question when he came out with the tariffs initially. I'm sure that was unexpected. It was unexpected to me when the markets dropped. But I said to everybody, well, stick around for 2 months and we'll be hitting new records. And we did. Within 3 months, we were hitting new records because the president was negotiating, he and his team. So we got a lot of great things. When he talks about a golden era in manufacturing, I believe it. It's going to happen.
Remember, you were on the show last year before the election, and you said, and here again, this comes from a person from Frackville, I think, saying, I remember Congressman Meuser said, Sammy, we're going to be in serious trouble if we don't take control of the House or Senate. Now, just think if you didn't have control of the House or the Senate, where would we be today?
Well, we wouldn't be where we are. First off, if they, meaning my colleagues to the left, get control of the House next term, it's really going to be an absolute shame. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we've got the advantage and everything else. And I think the American people will appreciate the results. And once they see that nobody's losing Medicaid and all the other lies, they completely will lose trust, I think, and further erode the Democrat base. But they'll be vindictive. I mean, they'll come out and they absolutely will try to impeach the president, and for God knows what. I don't know, coughing on his jacket, on his sleeve. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be bad. And if we did lose the Senate, which again I'm very sure we won't, none of our bills will get passed.
Yes.
So even through rescission or reconciliation, which we're able to get them through now.
So you think that, as a senior and at 65 or older, what you just did, okay, and what President Trump has done has given you $6,000. Okay, you got $6,000, my friends. You got $12,000. Of course, if you had $150,000 over $150, then you're proportionate as to what you. But the fact of the matter is, you just gave one selected group. That's only part of it. Now, went for gas the other day. Okay, you mentioned that before, and down here, I think it was 270, 271. But last year was like 395. But the point is, so I got 16 gallons of gas, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I go once a week to get gas. 16 gallons at $1.50 comes to $24. Multiply that by 4, okay? That's almost $100 that I now have that I can maybe go and spend and buy something. That's only one factor, okay? And this is what I think, sometimes if you're extreme and you hate the guy, well then, here's another person. This lady from Tamaulipas was really livid to me. She said, I think it was Tamaulipas, she said, why don't we do one thing, Mr. Lesante? All these liberals that think that, this guy is such bad, let them live in the Biden years. Let them pay the high prices for energy. Let them not benefit from all the social security. Let them pay that. Let us benefit from the people that we put into office. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, like for instance, in the last 6 months that President Trump's been president, the inflation rate while he's been president has been 1.8%. Okay? So the CPI was at the 2.3, 2.4, but during the time frame of President Trump's, it's 1.8. Under Biden, it was 20%. So yeah, I mean, things skyrocketed.
Yeah, one other point is that I remember back, it's always, hate the rich, okay? My good friend, John Rich, back in John Rich, okay, and the Rich family, he wanted to do the liquefaction plant. Remember that point? And so in 1999, liquefaction, taking the coal and making fuel out of it. The long story short is, if this would have gone at that time, we were looking at 3,000 people employed, okay, in this massive project, okay? And the first thing the person said, hey, all these rich people said, well, wait a minute, this guy is going to create his own money, took his own money to try to build something which is for the betterment of the country, okay? And you're kicking them. Remember when they had the luxury tax?
Yeah.
Okay, and they said,
Yeah.
well, let's get those rich guys. Well, what happened?
Boat
They
production went down.
Exactly.
Everything, right.
Exactly. So now you're out of a job.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. How the hell do you make sense of that stuff as a congressman?
Yeah, look, we want everybody to have the highest incomes that they can possibly have. I mean, the truth is, some have get on a horse that takes them further in the income levels than others, right? And they can be of equal skill and equal smarts. I mean, that happens, but we want everyone to be able to afford to take their family on vacation and do things and live a good life. But the idea that you're going to demonize those who are business owners, I mean, you know, look, we did well over time, right? But I didn't really have any money, not to get personal here, until I was 34, 35 years old. I was brought up by a police officer family. You know, my mom worked, very middle class. One time I said, yeah, I was in a middle class family. My father leaned over and said, we were lower middle class.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, and that's who you are,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you might change a little bit, but no, that's where your values are, and that's who you are, and that's who you care about. You don't think you're better than anybody else. It's just the way things are, and you try to do something with that opportunity, right?
It's called work.
Sure,
It's called the American
hard work,
dream.
maybe
Yeah,
a little bit of
yeah,
good fortune,
yeah.
but
So-
it doesn't happen without a lot of hard work.
Now, some people, you know, want to sit back and don't do anything, but yet do not want the other person who is successful working. All they see is, oh, he's driving a new car, or he got this. How did they get that? Or they don't know the 80, 98, 100 hours a week that you're working, and you're providing income. See, Dan, that's the thing that has me as I get older. I can't understand, you know, word logic. And if it was reversed, let's say you were a Democrat and they were Republican, I'd be the same thing. It doesn't make any difference. Is the progress. That's why I ask you about what your biggest disappointment is, because you know, as you travel through the district, okay, I know what I get, and I'm only a talk show host, and I'm sure you get bombarded with a lot of comments, and mostly was, you know, are you doing away with Medicaid? You cleared that up, okay? Social Security, you cleared that up. No tax on tips, clear that up. What are other than that I mentioned are they saying to you?
You know, maybe that we're climate change deniers, which I'm certainly not. You know, let's just go with the science. We have to have the cleanest environment we possibly can without damaging our ability to live. You know, and prosperity brings revenues, and revenues bring better quality of life for you know, for communities and for transportation infrastructure and for our hospitals and everything else. So you can't just do that.
You know, this is something when we're doing shows like this, and I mentioned, and I want to mention it again, that when I call this guy, I don't get the runaround. I get an answer from him, and then we'll go to the fantastic people he has surrounding him. You can't cover all this stuff in a 30-second commercial, Daniel. You know, you can't, you know, cover this in, you know, a 60-second commercial. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Please keep the good work up, okay? When I opened the show, my friends, I said, we got to trust people. I trust this guy. Back when he was Secretary of Revenue, the only person to come on and tell you the truth was this guy right here. And, you know, I don't care whether he's Republican or Democrat. I just go, I mean, 40 years I've been doing this. 40 years I've been doing this. In 40 years, I've seen a lot of people who are sincere, and I see a lot of politicians who are full of it and who take advantage of you, the senior citizens. Don't let them take advantage of you, my friends. Don't let them take advantage of you. Thank you once again, 247ssptv.com, YouTube channel, and thank you for making this show the #1 talk show in Northeastern Pennsylvania. I really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.